our energy and will, believing with every pore of our being in the truth of the Buddha's teaching that we are all endowed with the immaculate body-mind, we resolve to discover and experience the reality of this mind for ourselves. The other day someone who had quite misunderstood the state of mind required by these three essentials asked me, "Is there more to believing we are Buddhas than accepting the fact that the world as it is perfect, that the willow is green and the carnation red?" The fallacy of this is self-evident. If we do not question why greed and conflict exist, why the ordinary man or woman acts like anything but a Buddha, no determination arises in us to resolve the obvious contradiction between what we believe as a matter of faith and what our senses tell us is just the contrary. And our zazen is thus deprived of its prime source of power. I shall now relate these three essentials to Daijo and Seijojo Zen. While all three are present in Daijo, this doubt is the main prod to Satori because it allows us no rest. Thus we experience Satori, and the resolution of this doubt, more quickly with Daijo Zen. In Seijojo, on the other hand, the element of faith is strongest. No fundamental doubt of the kind I mentioned assails us, and so we are not driven to rid ourselves of it, for we sit in the unswerving faith that we are inherently Buddhas. Unlike Daijo Zen, Seijojo, which you will recall is the purest type of zazen, does not involve the anxious striving for enlightenment. It is zazen wherein ripening takes place naturally, culminating in enlightenment. At the same time Seijojo is the most difficult zazen of all, demanding resolute and dedicated sitting. However, in both types of zazen all three elements are indispensable. And teachers of old have said that so long as they are simultaneously present it is easier to miss the ground with a stamp of the foot than to miss attaining perfect enlightenment. Aspiration. Even while we all do zazen, our individual aspirations are not identical. These aspirations resolve themselves into four main groups or levels. The first and shallowest level involves neither faith in Zen Buddhism nor even a cursory understanding of it. One just happens to hear about it and decides to try sitting with a zazen group or in a session. Nevertheless, that out of millions of deluded people entirely ignorant of Buddhism one particular individual should be led to this year-old, unbroken line of teaching is, in the Buddhist view, not a fortuitous but a karmic circumstance and therefore of vast spiritual significance. The second level of aspiration is a level which goes no deeper than the desire to do zazen in order to improve physical or mental health or both. This, you will recall, falls into the first of the 5 classifications of Zen, namely, Bompu Zen. At the third level we find people who, no longer satisfied merely to increase their physical and mental well-being, want to tread the path of the Buddha. They recognize how exalted is the Buddhist cosmology, which views existence as not confined to one lifespan but endlessly evolving lifetime after lifetime, with the circle of human destiny completed only upon the attainment of Buddhahood. More, they have established faith in the reality of the enlightenment experience, and though the resolve to attain it has not yet been awakened, the desire to pursue the Buddha's way is clear and real. The fourth level comprises those determined to realize their true self. They know this experience to be a living reality, for they have encountered people who have had it, and they are convinced they can likewise attain it. When they come before their teacher they come with an open mind and a humble heart, ready to follow whatever course he prescribes, secure in the knowledge that by so doing they can realize the goal in the shortest time. I will now quickly recapitulate these 4 classes of aspirants. Those who, having no particular faith in Zen, come to it through fortunate karmic circumstances. Those who practice zazen through a desire only to add to their physical or mental health or both. those who practice Zen out of belief in the exalted nature of the Buddha's teaching, and those who have a strong determination to become enlightened. Hereafter you will come before me one by one, and I will ask you what you feel to be the nature of your aspiration, that is, into which of the four classes you fall. Tell me your feelings honestly. Do not add anything through pride, and do not subtract anything out of false modesty. Depending upon what you tell me, I will assign you the zazen most appropriate for you. There is no definitive practice which applies to everyone. Generally speaking, those who put themselves in the first class are assigned the practice of counting their breaths. Those in the second category, the following of their breath. In the third class, shikan taza. And in the fourth, a koan, usually mu. When students come before me individually for the first time, they make all manner of curious replies. Some say, I think I belong between the first and second classes. Others tell me, I have a chronically bad stomach, so would you assign me a type of zazen that will help this condition? Or sometimes a person will say, I am somewhat neurotic. What kind of zazen would be good for that? Quote, depending on the type of person and the strength of the determination, I prescribe what I believe to be a suitable practice. With stolid individuals it is usually desirable to spur on with the kaisaku, whereas somewhat nervous or sensitive people can do better zazen without it. Only if your appraisal of your feelings is frank can I select for you the most effective practice. Mu Calligraphy by Harada Roshi. Zazen is not meditation, and for this reason we have retained this Japanese word throughout. Its precise meaning will become clear as the book progresses. Pronounced zazen, each syllable is accented equally. For a discussion of the significance of a single word or phrase precipitating enlightenment, see this page. For Yasutani Roshi's comments on shikan taza, see this page. The conscious thought, I must get enlightened, can be as much of an impediment as any other which hangs in the mind. For the attitude of one such novice, see this page. In Nempyo Sambyaku Soku. In his Fukan Zazengi. Universal Promotion of the Principles of Zazen. Following Bodhidharma's example, Soto devotees face a wall or curtain during zazen. In the Rinzai tradition, sitters face each other across the room in 2 rows, their backs to the wall. Udana I. From the Zenso Mondo, translation by Kuni Mitsuo and E. Steinilba Oberlin. Foundations of Tibetan Mysticism, by Lama Govinda, pp. This statement is made from the standpoint of practice or training. From the standpoint of the fundamental Buddha mind, there is no delusion and no body. Psychological Studies on Zen, edited by Yoshiharu Akashiga. Psychic, here does not relate to extrasensory phenomena or powers but to energies and body-mind states which cannot be classified either as physiological or psychological. For further information about him, see this page. See Mind in vocabulary section. Foundations of Tibetan Mysticism. Shibogenzo, first chapter, called the Genjo Koan. Quote, a Buddhist Bible, edited by Dwight Goddard. The Hara. See section IX for the various correct postures. The sixth Dharma ancestor, Hui Neng, is the most notable exception. In his autobiography he recounts how he attained enlightenment. In his youth upon hearing the Diamond Sutra recited by a monk. Evidently he had never practiced formal zazen before. For a discussion of joriki, see this page. See also, samadhi, in the vocabulary section. The sixth Dharma ancestor in his Platform Sutra states, if one did not have the Buddha mind within oneself, where would one seek the true Buddha? Quoted in Sources of Japanese Tradition, edited by William Theodore de Barry. New York. Columbia University Press. A Zen name meaning white cloud. See clouds and water in vocabulary section. Yasutani Roshi died in his temple in Tokyo on March, at the age of 88. He was about to take his breakfast when he toppled over and, without pain, passed away. A week earlier his strength had begun to fail and he took more rest from his heavy teaching schedule. 3 days before he drew his last breath he administered the precepts to 12 persons in a 45-minute ceremony called jukai. Afterward he confided to a close disciple, "That is my last jukai. I went through it on sheer willpower." Quote, a Zen name meaning great cloud. See clouds and water in vocabulary section. His other name is Sogaku. The traditional Japanese term is O-shaka-sama. It is both respectful and intimate. The O and sama are honorifics, and rather than attempt an arbitrary translation of them, I have followed the usual English rendering of this title. Other accounts say 6 years elapsed from the time he left his home until his supreme enlightenment. See section IX for sketches of all these postures, including one widely used in the Southeast Asian Buddhist countries. The center of gravity of the body-mind should be about 2 inches below the navel. For additional information on concentrating the mind. Shoujo Zen. The southernmost of Japan's main islands. See Amida in vocabulary section. For a poetic description of the differences between Rinzai and Soto, the following from an unpublished manuscript of the late Naigen Senzaki may be of interest. Among Zen students it is said that Rinzai's teaching is like the frost of the late autumn, making one shiver, while the teaching of Soto is like the spring breeze which caresses the flower, helping it to bloom. There is another saying, Rinzai's teaching is like a brave general who moves a regiment without delay, while the Soto teaching is like a farmer taking care of a rice field, one stalk after another, patiently. If you are working without a teacher, do not change from one exercise to the next until you are able to count from 1 to 10 without losing the count or going beyond 10 for, say, 15 minutes. In the journey from India to Japan, Vajradatta, the half-demented villager mentioned in the sutra, was mysteriously transformed into the beautiful maiden Enyadatta. In Zen, doubt implies not skepticism but a state of perplexity, of probing inquiry, of intense self-questioning. It is not wise to assign yourself a koan. Only a teacher who has given you dokusan and therefore knows your temperament, aspiration, and capabilities can, with your help, assign you a suitable koan and, especially in the beginning, give you the necessary guidance.